Hello and welcome to the latest Travel Weekly webcast. I'm Katie McGonagle, Features Editor at Travel Weekly, and today I'm joined by an expert panel to talk about how to sell rail holidays, tying in with Travel Weekly's first ever standalone feature on selling rail holidays. First, we've got Anna Davies, who has been Sales and Marketing Manager for tailor-made rail specialist Railbookers and Amtrak Vacations since January 2019. Anna has a long pedigree in rail. Prior to Railbookers, she spent 15 years at SNCF and even did her honeymoon and a number of family holidays by rail, which is quite impressive. And she now works closely with agent partners on generating new business. Then we've got Hazel Mansell, National Account Manager for Rocky Mountaineer. After a background in cruise, Hazel has been with Rocky Mountaineer since 2012 and is a real expert in the product. And lastly, we're joined by Mark Smith, a former British rail manager who started the hugely successful rail website, The Man in Seat 61, which sets out absolutely everything you need to know about train travel in Europe and the rest of the world. It's a really useful resource, so I would urge anyone who hasn't seen it before to check it out at seat61.com. So thank you all for joining me. Really appreciate you taking the time. So before coronavirus threw our entire lives into chaos, not just travel, but everything at home, we really noticed that rail holidays are becoming much more popular with mainstream travellers. I just would love to know your opinion on why you think that was, what are the key advantages of a rail holiday, and do you think that that will continue once travel restrictions are eased? And Mark, perhaps we'll start with you on that one.
Yes, I have certainly noticed it. And yes, it is going to continue when coronavirus is sorted. I started my website way back in 2001. And back then, if anyone told me why they were looking to take the train to Italy or Spain rather than flying, they would typically say they've got a phobia of flying, or they're medically restricted, or they particularly like train travel. And what people say now is two things in the same breath. They're fed up with the airport and airline experience, and they want to cut their carbon footprint. And those two things go together like flip sides of the same coin. And although we've seen the sort of Greta Thunberg effect over the last 12 months, and certainly a tremendous press and media interest in alternative travel overland, this isn't sudden. This has been going on for a good 6 to 8 years, steadily and progressively, from the grassroots up. It's not coming from the rail industry, certainly not. It's not coming from the travel industry, it's coming from the traveller.
That's great, yeah, so it's that rising demand. And as you say, you know, there is that sort of flight shaming movement that was starting to kind of gather pace this year. Obviously, we're all, whether we like it or not, having a flight-free few months at the moment. But it does seem that appetite is there and will resume afterwards, you know, once things start to get back to normal. And Anna, coming from a tailor-made side of that, you know, is there, I'm sure you've seen a huge rise in interest in rail holidays, but it's also looking at the difference between holidays by rail and holidays that are about rail, where rail is the prime driver for travelling. So what have you noticed from your customers and from your agents?
I mean, I agree with a lot with what Mark said, and I think prior to all of this, we were looking at a really strong year, some double-digit growth, and the popularity has been gradually, steadily increasing for a number of years. I think that's down to a number of things. Yes, it's partly down to people who are looking to minimize flying in some cases. It's also from people's point of view, traveling by train and a rail holiday offers so much choice, and it has so much variety, and it means so many different things to so many different people. So, you know, with us as a tailor-made operator, it's any place, any day, any time, anywhere the train goes, we go there. So it can be a short break of just a few nights, it can be a longer coast to coast, you know, journey of a lifetime, and anything in between. And I think that flexibility, that choice, and that sort of breadth of product really means that it's something that's growing in popularity. And I think even if you look at the situation right now, in the challenging situation that we all find ourselves in, what's really encouraging to see is that we are starting to get some quotes and even some bookings. Yes, it's very slow. No, there aren't very many, but it's not zero. And what's coming in really reflects that choice. There are some very short breaks across the channel at the end of the year, this year, and there are some that are looking, you know, further afield, Alaska, Canada, Scandinavia, to those open spaces for longer trips, for longer durations into 2021 and 2022. So it really just gives the customer and, you know, via the travel agent, just that massive choice of what that holiday looks like.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be argued as well that, you know, people might be a little bit nervous of flying, especially post-coronavirus. We've seen lots of pictures of what, you know, cabin crew might be dressed up as and that kind of thing. So you know, that trend in that rise in interest in rail holidays does look set to continue. That said, obviously we've got, you know, the carbon footprint issue and wanting to reduce our impact on the environment. But Hazel, you know, you look after a luxury train journey that is, you know, the other side of Canada.
Absolutely.
So it does show it's not just about wanting to reduce your carbon footprint. Sometimes it's worth flying to the other side of the world for that kind of amazing bucket list train journey. So tell us a little bit about that and the kind of reasons that some of your customers come to you wanting that train journey. Is it celebrating a special occasion? You know, why do they want to fly all the way to Canada to the Rocky Mountaineer?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much a must-do holiday on many people's lists that people have been saving up for many years, and they're just, you know, can't wait to get out there and experience it. Could be celebrating a special occasion, so it could be a big birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be a retirement holiday. So there's lots of those reasons, or it could be just that you just want to experience that spectacular Western Canada scenery, traveling through the Rockies on board Rocky Mountaineer. We're also really fortunate that you know, we've had some great TV coverage. You know, last year we had Michael Portillo travelled with us on the train. Just last month we had Tony Robinson as part of his Channel 5 series. So it's been great how much exposure you've had, this additional TV exposure on train travel, and that's really, you know, inspires a lot of our guests as well to travel, as well as all the work we do with our partners in the UK and lots of great marketing initiatives that we operate as well. So lots of many reasons, and it is such a nice relaxing way to see that scenery, sitting back enjoying some great Western Canada cuisine, lovely wines from the Okanagan Valley and the interior British Columbia. So it's such a fantastic way to experience the Canadian Rockies, and what better way to do it on Rocky Mountaineer?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was lucky enough to do the journey last year. I tested out some of your new gold leaf carriages last year. And yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. Seeing scenery. I don't think we stopped eating and drinking for the whole 2 days.
Absolutely. You'll never go hungry on board the train. That is for sure.
That's true. The service was excellent. But
I'm glad to hear it.
It's the wildlife and scenery and everything else that goes with it.
It's just amazing. It is amazing.
No, it is, absolutely. And it's a nice relaxing way to travel as well. And you know, I mean, there are obviously lots of other amazing big ticket journeys out there. Mark, I'd love to know, you know, which other sort of bucket list journeys tend to be really popular from your website, and also which up and coming journeys are you seeing starting to garner a bit more interest? Perhaps you get questions from readers about them. You know, just tell us about which ones you tend to find are most popular.
Well, of course, there's that perennial favourite, the Venice Sampler Orient Express, linking London, Paris and Venice. A fantastic train, so fantastic, I accidentally got engaged on it in 2003, having only gone to research it, but it did work its very special magic. And here I am 17 years later with a wife, 2 small kids, a dog, 2 cats, and a large mortgage. So it's all magic on that train, both in terms of the onboard service and the food and the scenery you pass through, of course. Then we have the Eastern and Oriental Express between Singapore and Bangkok. That's also a similar service with excellent onboard service that people really enjoy. The combination of a cruise, but a cruise that goes overland through scenery. That's pretty much an unbeatable combination. And of course, it's the same thing that's driving the cruise industry. You can cruise by land as well with a train, and we're seeing the same growth in the rail cruise market and trains like Rocky Mountaineer as has been seen with the conventional cruise market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are lots of parallels there, aren't there, about, you know, in terms of the service and being taken to your destination, so you don't really have to put that much effort in. You get to just sit back and have a nice holiday. And Anna, I mean, your Railbookers serves lots of different destinations. Of course, you've got your Amtrak Vacations arm serving the US, but you probably see lots of different destinations. So are there any particular destinations that you think are really well suited to rail travel, or, you know, particular types of journey that you think work really well? So journeying through lovely scenic mountains, for example, or, you know, covering long distances by rail that might actually be quite hard to do by road or other means?
Again, I mean, I think you're right. There's a huge amount of choice out there, and a huge amount of different options. I think in terms of up and coming sort of destinations, I'd also throw in Scandinavia there as well. And I think we're getting more and more demand from customers looking to explore that part of the world by rail. So taking things like the Flam Railway, which not that long ago was voted the most scenic in the world. So that those sort of open spaces, incredible scenery, and often scenery that you just can't see traveling any other way. You see more as you travel by rail, but you also see views that you just can't see with any other mode of transport. I also think, if there's any particular countries or that lend themselves, that are well suited, it's really anywhere that has a rail network, to be honest, because it just lends itself to a more adventurous, more experiential, it's just a different sort of holiday. And I think if it's scenery, then you'd be hard pressed to beat somewhere like Switzerland, for example. The Glacier Express, the Bernina Express, any of those scenic journeys really lend themselves to exploring that country by rail. And if you talk about views and those kind of scenic experiences, the Glacier Express, certain types of the year, you can be traveling across the top of the glacier and you've got cross-country skiers either side of you. You wouldn't get that if you were flying or driving. So it really does offer that unique view and that unique experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's be honest, if you're driving, even if you're in a couple, one of you's kind of got to keep your eye on the road.
Exactly.
Whereas
Exactly.
if you're traveling by
Absolutely.
rail, the train driver can do that, and you both get to have the full experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'd also be interested to know from you, Anna, what kind of sectors of the audience tend to want to book rail travel? Does it skew towards a slightly older market, perhaps? And what are the advantages for older travellers on it? Or actually, do you get lots of different age groups and lots of different types of traveller?
I would say that it's, in general, if you look at our customer base, it tends to be an age group of 50 plus, 55 plus. That is the bulk of the customer that we see. That said, it is starting to change and it is starting to vary. And if we look at some of the bookings we had last year, for example, from agents, a number of those were honeymoon bookings, Canada coast to coast for young couples. Again, looking to do something different, and it's that actually is drawing a younger demographic, I think, as well. It's a different sort of holiday. We're also seeing the sort of multi-generational aspects of holidays come in as well with rail travel. And I think that's sort of also partly down to the renaissance of the sleeper train that Mark has documented, really positively as well. And those kind of people re-engaging with a form of transport that they maybe took when they were young and wanting to take their grandchildren on it and explore that way. Again, as you say, that means that nobody has to drive, everybody can enjoy the view, and it's about creating a different sort of memory. So I think it is broadening, and there is perhaps a growing demand for families to start taking train trips as well. And as you say at the beginning, I've taken my youngsters as well, and it's a really exciting and fun way to travel, and again just mixes it up a bit and offers them a different kind of experience. So it's very broad, really. But as I say, the vast majority at this point is of a slightly older demographic, but there are also people that want independence and want flexibility and want to explore by themselves and have that adventure rather than be part of a wider group, and kind of have that independence and freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And we are talking about independent rail holidays. There's, a fantastic range of escorted rail holidays out there.
Of course.
But it is possible to do it independently. And Mark, I mean, you've taken your kids on goodness knows how many train journeys.
Since they were babies, absolutely. I actually see a slightly different demographic from many of the upmarket trains. I mean, older people tend to have the money. I know this from being a penniless student. So on my site, where I cover everything from the independent scheduled trains to the upmarket trains, I see a much broader spectrum of people, and an awful lot of young people want to take the train as well. In fact, when they did a survey to look at the people who used my website, they said that the age range was unusually flat. You normally get travel websites aimed at the older people or travel websites aimed at budget people. But trains are actually used by all people of all ages. And when you cover the full spectrum from scheduled service to luxury cruise train, you do see the whole spectrum of age ranges.
Yeah, oh gosh, that's really interesting actually, isn't it? And you're right, I mean, there is a difference in the product, and that's obviously going to then attract a slightly different audience. I do also wonder, you know, there are some challenges when it comes to rail holidays. So we've talked a lot about the demand for them, but where people perhaps aren't thinking a rail holiday is for me, why do we think that is? You know, is it that they have certain misconceptions about the rail holiday, like they won't be able to sleep, or that it's not for families? Is it that they think they've got to be a bit of a rail geek that needs to know all the timetables inside out? You know, what do you think are the kind of challenges facing those who try and sell rail holidays? And Mark, perhaps we'll start with you again on that one.
Well, first of all, you get a lot of people who think you can't get to Spain or Italy by train, in spite of the fact that people were going there by train for 100 years before anyone invented an aircraft. But the next problem, of course, even if you know you can get there by train, is where do you go? The rail industry is very fragmented. So in terms of booking scheduled trains, the difficult bit is finding out how you do it. It's almost a carefully kept secret, and pretty much why I started Seat 61. In the specialist world, it's a question of some sensible Googling to find companies like Railbookers. There are relatively few specialist rail agencies in the market who can book and organise rail-based holidays, and that's a great shame, because I think an awful lot of the travel industry is missing out on something that is now up and coming.
Yeah, I absolutely understand what you mean. It shows that there's a real opportunity out there for agents who can grasp this market. I mean, a lot of them will be familiar with the big ticket journeys like Rocky Mountaineer, and I'm sure lots of agents have done your tracks training, Hazel, and all sorts of other things. But yeah, it is also sort of looking at the breadth of product there. And Hazel, what challenges do you find with agents when they're coming to try and sell Rocky Mountaineer? Is it that perhaps they haven't experienced it themselves? Are there kind of perception issues there? Do you have any advice for agents who want to learn more?
Yeah, I think I mean, Canada is a huge country. You know, it's a large country. So for those that are maybe less familiar with Canada itself and what that offers, it's getting a starting point with that. As you mentioned, we have a great online training program track, so agents can work through the modules, learn about the product, and build their confidence. Obviously, first-hand experience is really important, and you know, we run learning journeys every year, so we try to encourage as many agents to participate in those as possible. So that's a great way on learning first-hand experience, doing that. But it's really using the tools that are available to really build up your knowledge, reaching out to us in the sales team as well to help and support and give you knowledge on how to put packages together, where to start. We've got some great top selling packages which incorporate the train. Those are always really good ways to start. We also have an agent sales guide. So again, we have lots of tools out there that can really help. And if you have a cruise database that you work with, it's really good to dip into that. You know, about 50% of our guests will travel on a cruise to Alaska, as well as combine that with Rocky Mountaineer. So that's a really good, starting point, is just talking to those ocean cruise guests, or if you've got river cruise guests, again, they're a really great target demographic to reach out and connect with. So again, and it's really just asking good questions to your clients as well about what they're looking for. We touched on that, there's areas you can self-drive through the Canadian Rockies, but as Anna and Mark say, there's many areas that are just not accessible by road, and you get to see it from such a different viewpoint when you're traveling by train. So again, it's just really using all the tools that are available, and and your sales team as well that's in market to help you build that business up within your own agencies.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, lots of agents will have that database there. It's just about applying it perhaps to a sector that they maybe feel slightly less confident about or don't know as well, but actually they can do that.
That's right. And it's easy to just, pop out an e-blast to your database. We've got a great image library, so you can, create a really nice looking e-blast. We can give you lots of help and support with that, with copy content as well, and help you get that out and really test your market if you've not done that before. And it generates great success. I mean, it really does. It's such a great combination to work with the rail and cruise holiday aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, another growth sector for agents to tap into. Yeah. And Anna, I'll just throw a similar question over to you, really. I mean, you've been working lots with agents and selling or trying to educate them in a product that perhaps they're not quite as familiar with. It's a new concept, lots of agents sell lots of escorted rail tours, but you know, what you guys do is something slightly different.
Yes.
So how have you found working with agents? What kind of challenges have you come across, or you know, what kind of challenges do they tend to find in selling rail holidays, and what advice would you have for agents who want to sell more?
I would echo the points that Mark and Hazel have made to start with. I think a lot of it comes down to knowledge, and it comes down to confidence. And if you're not confident in it, you're not likely to push it. And I think it's kind of overcoming that fear, as Mark said, of where can you actually go, where is feasible, where can my customers reach. And I think also the challenge is sometimes that rail can be overlooked a bit. Sometimes it's categorized as just a transportation part of a journey rather than the bigger picture of, and it's very much a sleeping giant. And I think it very much is a huge opportunity for people that want to get involved. I think in terms of training and giving agents the confidence to promote and to push, we run weekly webinars. We have a Wednesday webinar every single week. We do 3 sessions, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. It's the way we've always trained, that kind of digital approach. And we vary those topics every week. This week it's about Canada and the Rockies. Next week it's about scenic Switzerland by rail. So there's always things to learn and product to take on. What we also really like to do and really focus on are sharing with agents the destinations, the holidays of ours that are trending, what we're seeing coming in now. And we're able to do that because we also offer consumer webinars. And by offering consumer webinars, we're really getting to the heart of what the customer is asking. You know, we're able to follow that, look at the questions they're asking, look at the destinations they're searching for. And we always share that with travel agents, whether that's in those travel agent webinars or whether it's on our calls from our business development team. So, you know, really sharing that information of what we're seeing coming in now live is really helpful, I think, for agents, so they know the sorts of destinations that they can promote and focus on with their databases. But I also agree entirely with Hazel that the crossover with the cruise demographic is huge, and you know, 80% of our customers have historically cruised in the past as well. So you know, that's a really easy way to kind of offer rail to your database if you haven't done so before.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And how would agents access the webinars? Is there somewhere they can sign up, or an email address?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're on our website. They run every single Wednesday. So really just give us a call. We're still very much open. Our business development team are available. We can talk you through that. We can sign up. We can sign you up to any of those sessions. And as I say, they run 3 times a week to give you as many chances to join.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it just shows you there is quite a lot of information out there. It's perhaps just identifying this as a sector that agents can grow their business, and then going and looking at some of the resources out there, including you know, Mark's website, which has lots of really good videos and things. I mean, I've looked at it before when I've been researching rail holidays. You know, videos of what the rail journey is actually like, and really detailed information. Probably more than agents even need to know in detail to sell it, but it just gives them that little bit of background.
It is definitely an issue. I think you can probably sell airline tickets without ever seeing a picture of that particular aircraft, because they're pretty much all the same. But all the trains are different, which is a great thing. But it's important to show pictures of what they're like, and I've tried to do that. I've even almost got myself arrested for taking pictures of suitcases on luggage racks, because I know people are going to ask, what do I do with my luggage? And you actually have to show them a picture of a particular train with a luggage rack and suitcases on it. That's how you do it. A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's commitment for you, commitment to your craft.
Fantastic.
Right, okay, well, I'm afraid, I think we're running out of time, I'm afraid. But finally, I would love to know from each of you whether you have an absolute favourite rail journey that you've done, and whether, and this might be a difficult one for Mark, I think, but whether the rail journey you haven't done yet that you would actually still like to do. So Anna, why don't we start off with you on that?
Yeah, this is a very difficult question. It's like asking which one of your children you prefer the most. There's too many to choose from. But I would go, I think, with favourite so far is the Southwest Chief, which is the Amtrak route from Chicago to Los Angeles. I was fortunate enough to do it last year, and I just loved every minute of it. And you know, as you said at the beginning, I've been I've been in rail for a while. I've travelled on a lot of trains and I've done a lot of routes, but it really blew me away in terms of the onboard experience, the meeting the other diners, the fabulous food on board, the falling asleep with the train moving in your bunk was really great fun. And the scenery was just so varied throughout. We left Chicago Union Station, then you're crossing the Mississippi, then you find yourselves in the deserts of Arizona. It's just ever changing, and I loved every minute. So that would be my favorite so far. The one on my list to do is probably the Flam Railway. That's probably high up there. I'd love to do more of Scandinavia by rail. So yeah, that's on the list for 2021.
Good, that sounds excellent. And Hazel, what's your favourite one and favourite one still to do? And I think we have to give you a pass. You probably have to.
I was going to say,
apart from Rocky Mountain.
Apart from Rocky Mountain, well, it is a Rocky Mountain one is my favourite. When I joined back in 2012, the first experience was going on our first Passages West journey from Vancouver to Banff, and I have to say, I was just absolutely, I had butterflies in my stomach. I was so super excited, just seeing the scenery. I just think I had an open jaw every time, you saw another mountain. That was just amazing, seeing the wildlife. It was just spectacular. Blew me away, still has a special place in my heart. And in terms of, next train journey, yeah, I would love to do the Orient Express. I would love to do that. I think that was something that I would really love to do, but I need to save up for a bit for that now. I need to save up more for that, I would say. But yeah, that's definitely one on the list for sure. Yeah, and just wanted to add something as well, just when Anna was mentioning about the webinars, the fact that you're doing a Canadian one this week, Anna, which is just fantastic to hear. We've restarted our webinars on Thursdays, and we have one on Thursday morning. So just a really nice little segue from your webinar. Both. Why not do both and really build up on that knowledge when you've got the opportunity to do it this week? So I just thought I'd add that in.
That's a really good idea. And I'm sure there'll be lots of coverage as well of Rocky Mountaineer. It's your 30th anniversary this year.
It is our 30th, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So we'll have really good opportunities to sell Canada and sell off the back of that.
Absolutely.
There might be some repeats of some of those fantastic rail documentaries that you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope so. Definitely.
Yeah. Sounds good. And Mark, I think this is probably the hardest question.
I've whittled it down.
I'm not sure.
Perennial favourite is surprisingly close to home. It's the Caledonian Sleeper from London to Fort William in the West Highlands. A little cruise train, a little hotel on rails that leaves the big smoke, and you wake up in the middle of nowhere on the West Highlands with deer bounding away from the train, £200, and you've got a room for the night that gets you 500 miles north. Got to mention two runners-up. The Bernina Express in Switzerland is fantastic. The best narrow gauge train ride through the Alps from northern Italy to Switzerland. And the California Zephyr from Chicago to San Francisco, a slightly different route from the Chief. That takes you across the flatlands of Nebraska, up the scales the Rockies after a breakfast in Denver, goes through the Colorado Canyons, the Sierra Nevada, the Buttes of Utah, down into the Bay Area. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a scheduled service. You can actually go New York to San Francisco for as little as $240 if you play your cards right, in a reclining seat. One still on the list, which has eluded me, what with changes to the permit arrangements, is the train to Tibet, Beijing to Lhasa, the highest mainline railway in the world. One of these days, I'm going to make that journey.
Oh, that sounds like an excellent ambition to aim for. That's brilliant. And yes, in fact, a number of the rail journeys that you've just mentioned and the California Zephyr that Anna recommended to me are all featured in this week's Travel Weekly. So if anyone wants a little bit more info on some of the product that's out there, do have a look at the destinations pages in Travel Weekly or travelweekly.co.uk/destinations. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but thank you all so much for bringing us the benefit of your expertise. I've learnt lots about rail. I'm sure lots of our viewers have as well. Anna and Hazel, I'm sure you're around if agents do want to get in touch.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime.
And we'll include some details about those webinars on the webpage where this is featured. So
thank you.
Fabulous.
Thanks so much.
Next time. Thank you.